Just a minute. Hello and welcome to day one for 24 Hours of Rare. This is Patient Day. And we just had an introduction into the day from all of us, an NIH research program. And now going to be taking the stage is Sean Gordon. And Sean is a patient with adult polyglucosan body disease, or APBD. And APBD is a late onset, slowly progressive disorder affecting the central and peripheral nervous systems, presenting from the mid-40s onward. APBD causes decreased walking ability and other symptoms, ultimately causing Sean to leave his career and focus his energies on general rare diseases advocacy efforts, as well as APBD advocacy efforts in Israel, where he currently resides. So it's an honor to introduce Sean. And Sean, I will turn it over to you for your presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jeff. And it is a great honor for me to be on 24 Hours of Rare in general, and this particular panel in particular, because the rare dad that I actually look up to is Jeff Lard. So it's a great honor for me to be speaking about a topic which I so admire Jeff. So I think we all kind of admire Jeff in each in our own ways. So without further ado, let's go to the first slide. So I have to move it here. The first slide is a kind of a cheeky little comment. Is it rare dad or dad rare? Now, my wife's an English teacher, and she objected when I said dad rare because we know in English that we always put the adjective in front of the noun. Tall boy, black dog. These are things that are common in English language. Other languages invert the noun and adjective. But I thought, I don't like the rare dad because it really puts the emphasis on rare and not on the dad. So I really wanted to look at the dad as being the emphasis and not the rare. So in my opinion, the dad part is the more important part of the rare dad, the journey. So this is why I thought it should really do dad rare rather than rare dad. So let's just talk about, I'm just going to give a little bit of an outline of what I'm going to speak about today. So what I'm going to speak about today would be three different topics. The first is, what is rare dad? How many of them? What's the population of rare dads? Number two, what are the challenges that all of us as rare dads face? And number three, what are the opportunities? Yes, there are opportunities. Hard as it, after we go through the challenges, it's going to be very difficult for us to even understand that there are opportunities. But yes, there are opportunities. So first, I'm going to describe a little bit about myself, a little bit about myself, and then a little about myself, and then we'll go into the categories. So let's talk about myself. Now, I'm going to make a caveat before I begin. Everything that I'm going to speak about today, in terms of the opportunities at least, are very specific to me. Every rare patient has their own journey, their own struggles that they face. So anything that I'm going to say only relates to my personal life experience. I can't generalize it across the board. I give maybe some ideas to other people, but these are certainly just particular to me. So, a little biography of Sean Gordon. So I'm Sean Gordon. Nice to meet you. I'm a proud rare dad. I'm 62 years old. I'm married, and I think she's actually listening. And we're blessed to have 7 children and 9 grandchildren. We live in Jerusalem, Israel. Before I went on disability, I was a high-tech professional, over 20 years in the Israeli high-tech business industry. As Jeff pointed out, I'm a patient of APBD, which is a late onset disease, which was sort of declining, a very gradual degradation of certain body functions. I was walking with crutches, now I'm in a wheelchair. So I'm disabled and I'm in a wheelchair. This disease that we have is a very ultra rare, maybe a few thousand people worldwide who have it. And how I spend my time during the day, as Jeff pointed out, when I'm not taking care of the family or doing my fun family things, I work and I have a platform called rarefunding.com, forefundingteam.com, and our mission in life is to help rare disease patient organizations find marketing and sales resources, volunteer resources. So the question is, what is a rare dad? So I, being sort of a nerdy kind of guy, I kind of wanted to put them in categories and buckets. So as I understand, there's three basic buckets. There's the classic rare dad. That's the rare dad that Jeff Lord is. He has a child with a rare disease, and he basically works shoulder to shoulder with Eden to help take care of the family and take care of their child. That would be called what I call the classic type of rare dad. The next would be a patient who found a wife and is married and has children, and he himself is a rare dad, but he's started out life as a rare disease patient. So he has different challenges and different outlook. Number three is my kind of rare dad was a person who was late onset, who had a life, a normal physical life. I was a runner. I did all kinds of physical things, but then as in my 50s, I became, due to very common with this disease, I became hospitalized. I became disabled. I was disabled. So therefore, I call myself the third category of rare dad, which is a dad with a rare disease, and so he had a life with his family. They knew him as a quote able-bodied person, and then as he got older and he had the disease, he had certain different different life challenges thrown at him. So just to get a little idea of what are we talking about in terms of population? How many people are there? So if we look at the general rare disease population, the general rare disease population is going to have so kind of a very rough estimate that how many people have orphan disease. We all know the statistics, but how do we now look at the total population of people with rare disease? How do we break out those people with late onset disease? So again, there's no real good numbers, but I found one study that said basically 12% of the population of the rare disease population are people like me, people that are older in life that began suffering with the rare disease. And they didn't really break out how many, but there was again, a number of statistics that showed that. Other statistics from Ireland show that sadly, most of the people who passed away with rare disease are children, which leaves there are very few people left in that population that get to the age 50 or 60 that are rare disease patients like myself. Therefore, you see the population is probably going to be from 12 to 15%. So it's really not a lot of us out there. I think it's a rare within the rare. If we look at other populations in the out there, there's a little bit of delay on the and when I advance the slides, I apologize. I control it from Israel here, and then it has to go back to the States and then advance it. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Oh, there we go. So there are other populations, other communities that have disabled adults. About 26% of the United States have some form of disability as they get older. So people with rare disease are maybe a little bit different. There are other people around the world who do, certainly in the United States, who do have rare diseases and who have disabilities and are adults. So yeah, they're also facing similar challenges. Not exactly the same, but similar challenges. Okay. I'm sorry, there's a little bit. Oh, here we go. Again, there's a little bit of a delay. I apologize. Okay. Apologize for this. There we go. Here we go. Oops. Yeah, here we go. So one of the great challenges that we're facing as a community of rare dads is mental health. We have mental health challenges. And this is very, very common across all rare disease, across all rare disease patients, is a problem of mental health challenges. And this one study that I found says that rare disease patients suffer from anxiety, stress, low mood, emotional exhaustion, and suicidal thoughts. It's actually the suicidal thoughts are unfortunately rather common among rare disease patients. So these are a significant challenge that we rare dads, like all rare disease patients, have to battle. And specifically, a lot of us in the rare disease community have fear of the future. We don't know what our future will be. It's very difficult sometimes to know. Day-to-day activities are social isolation. We don't go out as much. Maybe we're handicapped. We're in wheelchairs. The world is not easily adaptable to us. It's restaurants, bathroom facilities, other parts of the world are not easily available to us. So a lot of us stay indoors. We don't meet with our friends. We stay isolated from the world. And lastly, we're very stressed out. Many of us are day-to-day activities. I just give you, even today, I was trying to do something and I needed to pick up my little handle, my arm extension. And I couldn't reach. It was difficult for me to reach down from the wheelchair I'm in. So that's just very frustrating. The day-to-day activities are challenging. Okay. And we have mobility issues, social seclusion, and dependency on others. I mean, I give another example. I dropped a credit card. I had to ask my kid to lift a credit card because it's very difficult to lift a credit card with those handy-dandy hand helpers because they're very thin. So these are things that create stress and anxiety that many of us in the community have. So therefore, these things create great social stresses. So that's just being a human. That's just forget being a father. That's just trying to get through your day. But then, how to be a dad. Now that's where the even greater stresses come in. Because as I said before, being a rare dad, how do you be a rare dad? How do you be a father? Or how is your father who was at one point a father that had all his abilities, his physical and mental abilities? And then now you change to this kind of different father. How do you maintain that father figure thing? How do you go ahead and do that? So I saw a website and it gave a number of different points. And what are the things that dads do? So one of them they do is maintain. One of them is maintaining a healthy marriage, and number two is balancing discipline and fun. I'll go back. Providing fun for the family, that'll be economic for the family. Be involved as father, be there for your kids, and lastly, communicate with them. So in terms of maintaining a happy marriage, certainly being a rare dad has certain limitations. You obviously can't go on long walks with your wives, or at least very difficult unless you do it on the street. It's kind of hard track, and your wheelchair is not so easy. Sometimes not so easy to go to movie theaters or drama or restaurants. Okay, those are very challenging. These are things that people normally do with their spouse. So and maybe some in terms of intimacy, it may be difficult to do those things that maybe quote normal people might do. So these are all challenges to maintaining a healthy marriage relationship. Number two, balancing discipline and fun. Sometimes when you're in a wheelchair, you're physically you don't have the capability of enforcing your discipline. I know it seems bizarre, but you're in the chair. You're smaller. You're shorter. You're not as agile. And number two, fun. Oftentimes, again, with stresses that the simplest things again, the day-to-day things can be very stressful. So it's very difficult to have that fun aspect to be a dad. You often can't have that same kind of joie de vivre, that fun of life. So it's very, very difficult. In terms of providing for the family, clearly, like in my case, I'm on long-term disability, and we're very fortunate that I had a insurance plan that allows us to bring money to the family. Allows me to bring money to the family, but maybe some people don't have that they're not looking to have that capability. It would be very difficult, very stressful for them to be able to provide for their family. And number two, how the rest of how's your wife and your children look at you? They may not see you as the breadwinner. They may not see you as the person. No, I know these are maybe ancient ideas, and I apologize. Some of these ideas may be old school, and I'm an old school guy. But I'm just suggesting that the providing for the family are huge challenges that a person might have, a person has, a dad has. And being able to be a rare disease person, he may be unable to do those. The number 4 is being involved, father, be there for your kids. No, you can't go to, maybe you could, but maybe challenge you, difficult to go to sporting events to watch your kid play baseball or football, or go or do other kinds of activities, or go out, or maybe for the weekend to a university. Again, I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not speaking, for other people, it's totally easy for them to go. But I'm saying for Sean Gordon, it's challenging, and therefore these are challenges that I have as a father. And lastly, communicate with your kids. Here's the subtle thing: our children are a bit older, so I didn't have young kids, but I could see that even with our own kids, when you're in a wheelchair, you have a different relationship. You don't have the same sort of adult-child relationship. It's kind of a different relationship, and as a father, that's also very stressful. But overall, on the general mental health, the problem with mental health being significantly challenging. And number 2, you have these 5 specific challenges. It makes it very difficult, again, challenges to be a father. So being a rare dad is obviously very difficult, and these are the challenges for a father. Again, it's not unreasonable that many rare fathers maybe find it a hard time to maintain their relationships, again, with their kids and with their spouses. But are there opportunities? Yes, amazingly there are opportunities. And despite the fact that there was a badly translated Chinese, a lot of times you go to these business motivational meetings, and they will say the Chinese word for opportunity and crisis and opportunity are the same. Well, they're not. It's because that's not true. But still, nonetheless, it's an interesting idea. So, despite the fact there are challenges, there could be. And again, I'm only speaking for Sean Gordon. I can't speak for anybody else. That there could be opportunities as a rare dad, despite the terrible challenges that we're facing. And these opportunities can be vulnerability. A person can have vulnerability. And these, again, the vulnerability, let me just say, these opportunities are things that you can then teach your children. They can learn from you. Your spouse can learn from you. These are things that are opportunities for growth. Despite the challenges, there's areas of growth that a person could experience that may overcome or may not overcome them, but could supplement the terrible challenges that he or she may be facing. Again, I'm only speaking for myself. So, potential positive challenges in our lives. So we start as this physical kind of creature, like the bull or the bull. The bull is a physical creature, pulls a plow, is in a bullfight. They're very physical creatures. But then we have the opportunity to grow from that physical material being to a spiritual intellectual being. Like an eagle flies over the countryside. It looks down from his perch way up high. We can if we take the opportunity, we actually can grow from a physical being to a spiritual intellectual being, which is really amazing, actually. I mean, it could be that we're very fortunate. Now, again, I don't want to be too, they say Pollyannish. I don't want to be too, like, looking at things too good, but it gives us an opportunity to perhaps do that. It gives us pause, because when we weren't in wheelchairs, we were running around, we were doing things, we were busy. We can now slow down. We can now take a step back and look at the world in a different way, and that could be a great positive change in our lives. Specifically, I suggested there were 3 things. Number 1, vulnerability. This is a great quote from, and I think this is how I pronounce it, Brene Brown. A lot of people know her. She's a great YouTube on vulnerability. And she said, vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, and joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. It's a source of hope, empathy, accountability, and authenticity. If we want greater clarity in our purpose, or deeper and more meaningful spiritual lives, vulnerability is the path. And as a person who can no longer, who doesn't walk, who's in a wheelchair, who doesn't work, I'm not the same man that I was before. I have to be more vulnerable. I have to be more caring, more open to my spouse and my family, and being able to be more vulnerable. Could be one of a great opportunity for us. So if we again, I'm only speaking for Sean Gordon. I can't speak for anybody else. But maybe many of my fellow rare dads, maybe in much worse physical conditions than me, and I may be in the future. But at this moment, I can say that the being in a wheelchair, not working, not being out there, conquering the world has made me more vulnerable. And I think that's actually had a great benefit for me personally, and I think and in our family as well. The next opportunity is courage. But these are things we can teach our children because as a rare dad, as a man in a handicapped man, just life's daily tasks are difficult. Just again, asking my kid to pick up my credit card is difficult, and they can see that they hopefully anyways they can see that dad is overcoming difficult daily challenges, and he's hopefully doing it with as cheerfully as he possibly can, and that might teach them courage and facing the family's future. We don't, it's very difficult when you're in a degenerative disease. You don't know you don't know how this thing's going to go. So how's it going to leave the family? Do we have to move homes? Do we have to do renovations for equipment for me? It's many uncertainties that we have. To be able to face the family's future, it takes great courage. Again, hopefully the children will see that. So what they don't learn from other things, maybe going to baseball games or going to their football games, hopefully they can learn the courage from seeing their father, facing the family's future. And then lastly, we don't know, again, in rare diseases, many of them are very poorly studied. And therefore, we don't know our medical future. I don't know, unfortunately, when or what's going to happen to me. I mean, so these are very scary things that we face. And so to be able to face them with a certain degree of courage, hopefully our children will pick up on those things, and they'll be able to learn courage. So not only vulnerability, but courage, I think is very a good thing that we can teach our children. And then lastly, patience. We can learn patience. Now, we live in a right now world. Things move very fast. I mean, we get on a website, and I'm sitting here in Israel, and I'm talking to you, and wherever you guys are, and I wanted that file to upload like yesterday, and things move very, very fast in this world. And when you're in a wheelchair, things happen a lot slower. It takes longer time to get dressed. Going and showering and other kinds of personal things take time. They don't move as quickly as they used to be. So you can't be impatient. You have to learn to slow down. And really, that's a great thing we can teach. We can in our relationships. I think today we just expect things to happen too quickly, and we know that relationships take time and things take time to do them well. So I think this is an interesting opportunity as you're handicapped. Maybe you can teach our children even they have to slow down a little bit. Things that the good things in life aren't going to come as quickly as perhaps they thought it would be. So that's my my talk for today. Thank you very much. Hopefully it was at least informative. Give you maybe a different side of life. And thank you very much, Eden and Jeff, for giving me the time today. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Sean. It was a great presentation, and thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know I've double stacked it today. I double stacked it earlier in the 24 hours that we had, and now I've stacked it here, and I really appreciate it. One of the questions, and maybe a tough question to answer, and with it, Sean, is that with obviously all of us that deal with a rare disease, we don't know what tomorrow holds, and most people don't know that. But what about, end of life planning? What steps should people take? Better to be prepared than not prepared. What can you talk a little bit about the things that you have done with that, if you don't care to share?
No, but I believe I have no secrets. So end of life. So we don't have a will. I guess Beth and I speak about it all the time. I guess we should. But we definitely have life insurance. We have, and we were. See, the interesting thing is that I was diagnosed. I was mid-50s, so I didn't even know I had a rare disease until I was probably 55. So fortunately, before 55, Beth and I had already, Beth and I had already put money away for life insurance and various end of life planning before I even knew this. So I don't think I've done anything specific since then, really. I guess we should put a will together. That's a good point. But all the other, I guess, again, the money that we had from various savings accounts were already established when I was diagnosed. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that answers the question greatly. When you start talking about, even with the mental health and being aware with it, people just respond in different ways, and we just want to, had wanted to open that up to people to say, it's to be prepared. Some people really, that helps them to be prepared. Other people don't want to talk about it at all with it or address the topic. So I appreciate you being open and sharing that with us, and I really appreciate you being here.
Actually, Jeff,
yeah.
There's another interesting how I call it effect is that, talk about end of life. A lot of times people, rare disease people of my age, oftentimes don't want to know the future because it's obviously scary. So there are a number of people with rare disease, adult onset, that really don't want to know about the sort of the pathway to degradation. It's sort of easier not to know. So I think that's that. So I personally think one should really know as much as possible, but there are people that don't want to know in an adult onset world.
Well, I think that's a great point, is that, and some of it may just depend on people's personality and what they're ready to look at with it. But yeah, I could see that happening.
I think with children, you really want to know because you want to make lives better. I think it's harder with an adult. The adults sort of want to ride it out.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, Sean, thank you again for today. It's been amazing, all the way from Israel to participate in this event. We really appreciate you and the friendship and that we've developed here with it, and you being willing to share your story. It means a whole lot, and I think it'll mean a whole lot to this community too. So with that, Sean, I will talk to you soon, and thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. And good luck to your dog.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.